Let's see. Just checking to see if we are live. Okay, we are good to go. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the highly praised energy habit that actually creates more burnout and stress among successful women and what to do about it. I'm so glad you're here. And I also want to invite you to settle into your seat. Just allow yourself to be fully present. Take a deep breath and release. So we are going to spend about 30 minutes together. And we'll be exploring something that is very ingrained in our culture and why it matters. So you've probably done this yourself. It's so not only deeply ingrained, but it's also an energy habit that is so promoted by a lot of coaches and authors. And the reason that I'm talking about it today is because I'm seeing it pop up a lot lately. It's been in our culture for quite a while, but I actually saw a highly recognized coach send an email out about a program, and it was deeply rooted in this energy habit. And I was so taken aback that I actually sent an email, which I've never done before, but I sent a very kind email that also suggested that, hey, you might want to take a look at this and this approach. And you'll understand why as we move through our time together here today. So let me help you presence what this energy feels like. Have you ever tried to make yourself do something that you didn't really want to do? Maybe you talked yourself into it because it was the logical thing to do. You know how our mental level wants to give us perspectives, right? Or maybe other leaders were doing it, or it's just the way it is. Or maybe you got some advice on, hey, this is something you really want to do if you want to grow your business, or if you want to have greater influence or manifest what you really want. There's a lot of well-meaning advice out there. But the question I have is, how did it make you feel? So how did you feel when you forced yourself to do something that you really didn't want to do? And if you don't want to feel the emotion, you don't have to. You can depersonalize it. You can say, instead of saying I felt, you can say, if it were me, I wanted to depersonalize it, I'd say Elari felt, because we automatically separate ourselves from the emotion when we don't put I in front of that feeling. But it is important that you recognize how it made you feel, because how it makes you feel is how you create, how you're capable, or what you're capable of having and attracting. So aside from that feeling, what do you think the impact of that choice was, of forcing yourself or pushing yourself through to do something that you didn't really want to do? Just get present to it. And if you feel like commenting, you can do so below. If you're not able to join us live, I will be checking in on the comments later, and I'll respond to your comments. So the question is, what do you think the result was when you forced yourself to do something that you really, really didn't want to do? Did it lead to the results that you really wanted? And here's a really powerful question. How did it make you see yourself? So if you're saying, well, not really good, I was frustrated, disappointed, whatever that is, don't go into self-judgment. This isn't what this is about here. We are in a no judgment zone. We're in a zone of self-love and empowerment. But if we don't allow ourselves to see the things that get in the way, and some of them are so culturally ingrained, we're kind of blind to them until we shine the light of awareness on them. So I really get it because I understand what it feels like to push yourself or to take advice from from a expert. And believe me, we can learn a lot from people, from mentors and guides who've been down a similar path, who've accomplished what we are trying to create. And so I don't want to insinuate that that is something that we shouldn't take advantage of, and something that it actually helps us grow faster and easier. But if what you experienced was disappointment or frustration or here I go again, yet again, I'm pushing myself to do this and I really don't want to, whatever that thing is, I want to say that that's not your fault. Yes, we do create our own reality, but there's no fault here. There's just cause and effect. It just is. And there's another factor at play here too, which is we are so immersed in a culture that has a lot of roots in patriarchy, in that pushing energy, like you should do it anyway. And we've actually been conditioned our whole lives to use this habit and this energy, even though it doesn't serve us, especially as successful women. Because if you're a successful woman, means that you've wanted to make a difference, that you have an impulse to create an impact, a positive impact. And especially if you're watching this, that's true for you. But this energy habit doesn't serve you. And it's often unconscious. And that's why we're talking about it today, because it's so deeply ingrained and you're going to recognize it as soon as I share it with you. But before I do that, let me tell you just a tiny little bit about myself in case you're new here or maybe we haven't worked together. I am Elari Onawa. I am an integrated potential advisor and a life on purpose coach, and I've been doing that since 2003. And I help amazing female conscious leaders and corporate starseeds basically shine their light from the heart and soul of who they are without burning themselves out or twisting themselves into a pretzel in order to do that. So I'm also the author of Just Believe, How Faith in Yourself Shifts Everything. That was published back in 2016. And I have a 16-week group coaching program called the Integrated Potential Experience, and it helps women like you be seen and visible in an authentic, soul-nurturing way. And the reason I'm talking about this energy habit is because it makes us not want to be seen, okay? It makes us feel like we're wrong. And I'm committed to getting rid of that conversation and seeing more women empowered. So that's why I do what I do, because the truth is the patriarchal structures are crumbling around us, and it is time for women to step into feminine leadership, soul-centered leadership. And that's why I have this program, because it's all about stepping into your gifts and the way that you are wired to share your own magic with the world. So, would you like to know what highly praised, commonly promoted energy habit creates more burnout and stress among successful women, and what you can do about it? So, before I reveal it, and I promise I will in a minute, I just want you to remain open and listen deeply, because often the mental level will get in our way of really getting something. We'll hear something and our logical mind is a memory association machine. So it'll hear the word and it'll say, "Oh yeah, I know about that." And then boom, we've closed ourselves down and we haven't heard what we're here to hear. So promise me, put an emoji in the comments or wave your hand. Promise me that you will stay open and listen deeply. Is that a yes? Awesome. So what I'm referring to, that energy habit, is the very important difference between motivation and inspiration. There is a huge difference, and I'm here to tell you why and what the impact is when we use motivation instead of inspiration. So first, get present to what motivation feels like, okay? Because you'll start to see, my intention is that you're going to see something here that's powerful for yourself. So motivation feels like pushing. You're pulling yourself up, you're making it happen. Just listen to the language and feel the energy. And what's under a motivation or behind a motivation is a have to or a should. So the question is, why do you think you have to push? Why would we need to motivate ourselves? And then why do we get burnt out by using that energy? Why is it hard, especially on successful women? If you have a notebook, you might want to write down your thoughts about it. But why do you think we have to push? Why would we make ourselves push? So I'm going to give you 3 reasons. This isn't all of them, there are more, but these are 3 of the most common that I've seen. And I've been coaching women now full-time as a business for 20 plus years, and I was a corporate leader for 20 years before that. So I have a lot of experience working with professional women and everybody from engineers to, oh my goodness, directors, managers, VPs, as well as, healers, business owners, massage therapists, mediums, psychics. You're all conscious leaders. So if you feel the need to push yourself, then there's 1 of 3 common reasons, most likely. And I'll tell you what the reasons are, and then we'll come back and go a little deeper. So number 1, it's the wrong goal. Number 2, there's something you believe you have to or should do in order to have it, to have what you want. Therefore, you have to push yourself to do it. Or number 3, you're not leveraging your gifts. So let's look at those. So if it's the wrong goal, what that means is it's not aligned with your soul level values. Now we have our ego. We have an ego that's a very important part of our ability to survive here. But there's the healthy aspect of ego, which is required for individuation. But then there's also the unhealthy part, the wounded part, that that part is the part that wants attention or that wants to hide. And if our goals are dampened or our goals are created out of personality or social conditioning or our small self, the wounded ego, then we're going to have to push ourselves because they're not aligned with our soul level values. That's why it'll feel hard. That's why it'll feel like you're pushing a boulder up a hill, okay? But it may not necessarily be that it's the wrong goal. Let's look at number 2. There's something you believe you have to do or should do in order to have what you want. Now, the problem or the bigger issue with this assumption is that it closes you down to next level creativity. The assumption is that you have to do this in order to be successful in achieving this goal, whatever that goal is. So if you're a conscious leader, maybe that goal is creating some really profound transformation in your workplace. If you're a conscious business owner, maybe it's growing your business without that icky feeling, the marketing stuff that you don't resonate with. But maybe some coach or guru told you, hey, this is what you have to do if you want to succeed. So if there's a have to or a should, and you're not aligned with it, then it will feel like you're walking through molasses. You'll procrastinate. So in this case, procrastination is not a bad thing. But if you don't get to the bottom of why you're procrastinating or why you don't want to do it, if you don't see the assumption there, then you're going to be locked into this is how it has to be. And if you choose to move forward, it's going to be really hard. And you will not get the results that you really want because the energy behind it is coming from lack. It's coming from something. The energy is that you don't want it. So there's an aspect and an element in there that you don't want. So you're not going to have the results that you really want. And that, of course, that leads to disappointment and frustration. And unfortunately, especially for women, women tend to also make themselves wrong and blame themselves. And then you get disappointed. And then you start to doubt yourself. And the reality is, it's not a skill issue. Yes, we all want to expand our skills, and it's not a worthiness issue. It's wrapped around either the wrong goal, it's not aligned with your soul values, or there's something there that you believe, there's a conclusion you've drawn that's limiting your creativity, and there's something you don't really want to do that you think you have to do in order to have that goal materialize. And number 3, you're not leveraging your gifts. So either you don't really know what they are, or you downplay them, or you force yourself to do something without recognizing what your true gifts are. Because if you're leveraging your gifts, you don't have to push. You never have to push or motivate yourself. You might have to upgrade your mindset, but the reality is you don't need to push yourself if you're leveraging your gifts. If you know what they are and you're honoring them and you've integrated them, then you have a lot more ease. And you don't collapse your self-worth into the results that occur. You stay in your genius, regardless of outside conditions. And oh my goodness, what a difference that makes. So I invite you to observe the energy in pushing for a moment. And I have a really important question that's going to be really revealing. So if you're motivating yourself, it's because there's a belief that if you're motivating yourself, you're pushing yourself. You're pushing something through. So do you really want to push or force yourself to do anything? Do you really want to push or force yourself to do anything? Of course not. But yet we do it all the time. As a culture, we do it all the time. How many times do you hear somebody grousing about their work? Saying they have to go to work, oh, it's Monday, or they're, dreading, something they have to market, or there's some aspect in their business or in their life that they're tolerating. And they're pushing themselves to do it, even though it's not aligned with who they are. So this is definitely, we are conditioned for this. We are conditioned to do it anyway. So there's no blame here. You're not broken, you're evolving, and you're living inside a social blueprint that actually encourages just getting over what you want and motivate yourself to do what somebody else wants anyway. Okay. So I just want you to get present to, if you're pushing yourself, there's something in there that you're either, it's the wrong goal, you've made and therefore you don't really want to do it. Number two, you're making an assumption that there's something you have to do that you don't want to do that's associated with that. Or number three, you haven't owned and integrated your high leverage gifts. Because here's the thing, if we have to push ourselves, if we're motivating ourselves, here's really the big thing. We actually override our inspiration and our intuition. We ignore our intuition when we try to motivate ourselves. And we all know that our intuition is the voice of spirit within us. It's one of the ways our soul speaks to us too. We override our precious inner treasure, that inner wisdom. And by the way, intuition doesn't always make logical sense, so that makes it even a little bit more challenging because we're very much trained to be in that left-brained experience, aren't we? And the other reason why this can be really hard on your system and why it leads to burnout, why it leads to the stopping and starting pattern, is because women are not wired this way as a long-term strategy. They're not wired for motivation. Most women are wired for inspiration. Now, we all have different energy types, but for the most part, a vast majority of women are not wired for long-term motivation, long-term pushing, unless they happen to have a strong warrior archetype energy. And this is called Sigma female. And that only makes up about 0.1% of the female population on Earth. 0.1%. Sigma female. So if you have patterns of burnout, you might want to take a look at why. Because this is a culturally promoted form of getting through. Just feel the energy of getting through. If you're getting through something, you don't really want to be doing it. And often if we don't want to do it and we've been doing it for a while, we don't see a way out, so we just keep tolerating. And I've just seen way too many people manifest physical illnesses in their body because they were doing things, and I don't want to put that out there. But when we keep pushing ourselves to do things that we don't really want to do, or when we're not leveraging our amazing gifts, it does have consequences. We stop, we're not as happy, we don't have as much aliveness. So the other piece here is that if you are a non-energy type, as in an orchestrator, a projector, or a connector, if you're wired that way, then you are especially wired to tune into others or your environment for inspiration. You're meant to guide or connect or orchestrate, get the moving parts to go together. And a lot of conscious leaders fall into these categories. And I myself am a non-energy type. And that means that I'm really good. One of my gifts is that I'm really good at tuning into what's required, what's needed, so I can uplift the energy, of a group, so that I can raise consciousness inside that place, wherever my focus is. Which means that where my inspiration comes from is in doing that, is in interacting with other people and sharing my gifts. If I'm not doing that, I'm going to keep burning myself out. If you're pushing yourself a lot, then you might want to look at that too. Then maybe aside from the fact that you're female, you are wired differently. So about 80% of the population, 79% of the population is some kind of manifestor or generator energy. And so that's the other reason why motivation comes up a lot is, especially males that fall into this category, is they can actually keep pushing for long periods of time without any, impact to their system. Women, not so much. And you know yourself and you know your body. So just notice what is true for you. So motivation is a predominantly male strategy, and it requires force and pushing. It's very electric and it's not very magnetic. And we're all a combination of electric and magnetic energy, but women especially are wired, you know, typically with more magnetic. In other words, you're letting things come to you. You're drawing them to you. It's more about who you're being and less about how much you check off a list, which is why we also, our soul kind of gives us a tap on the shoulders when we're in the doing, doing, doing energy, and we stop getting motivated. We stop getting inspired to do a lot because we're actually being called to go within and be more, to bring more of our gifts out. So consider this. If you really wanted to do something, would you need to motivate or push yourself to do it? And the answer, of course, is no. Right? But if we do it anyway, we negate, there's no room there for passion or inspiration. Motivation is actually based on the misconception that you have to do something to push yourself to get it done. And yet we don't have to do anything. And if we really wanted to do something in the way that we wanted to do it, in a way that's aligned with our soul values, with the heart and soul of who we are, then we don't have to push ourselves. Of course we're going to want to do it. See the difference? There's a wanting and a, oh, I guess I could make myself do it. Very different energy between motivation and inspiration. So when you feel like you have to do something, pause and choose. I invite you right now to choose that you will no longer override your precious intuition or force yourself into a way of being and doing that makes you miserable, that strips you of joy, and can't possibly lead you to the soul-led potential and fulfillment that is there for you, that is here for you now. So consider that when you motivate instead of following your inspiration, also that might be a sign that you're not ready. But if you take action out of motivation, that can lead to disappointment because you're not going to get the results that you want. And unfortunately, what happens is then you tend to get disappointed, and that can lead to bitterness or just not wanting to try anymore. And that would be a shame, because the reality is, if you're listening to this, you've got gifts to share. There's a reason why you're listening to it. So inspiration will always feel like, ooh, I want to. And there can be a range in inspiration. It can be anything from curiosity that you want to follow to, oh, that's interesting, to an, oh, wow, I really love the idea of this and I really want to do it. So it's somewhere in that range. It can be a hell yes or, that's interesting. And you can have that. You can use inspiration, but it does require getting to know capital Y-O-U in a deeper way. It requires you to get how you're wired and to be able to see what is working for you and what isn't. So let's recap. If you feel like you have to do something, there's one of three reasons. Either it's the wrong goal, it's not aligned with your soul values, or number two, there are assumptions about what you think you have to do or should do in order to have what you want. And so you're going to procrastinate and not want to do it, right? And number three, deals with your gifts. You haven't integrated, seen, or maybe you downplay your high leverage gifts because you don't think they're that big of a deal. So now you are aware of the key differences between inspiration and motivation, and awareness, shining that light on that habit, that energy habit. Doesn't it just feel better just acknowledging there's nothing wrong with me. If I'm burnt out, if it exhausts me. And so look at where you may be motivating yourself, where you might be overriding your intuition or maybe not recognizing your gifts. You now know the 3 common causes, and you also know that you don't have to follow motivation. You do not have to force yourself to do anything, but you do have to get to know yourself. So if you're watching this live or later, if you're looking at the recording, I invite you to leave a comment, if you got an aha moment, or leave an emoji in the comments. And if you feel drawn to go to the next level, if you are just exhausted and fed up with hiding your brilliance or leaving so much of your untapped potential and your precious gifts, maybe they're in a closet. You feel like they're in a closet somewhere. If you've been at this for a while and you're committed to having a great life and doing your soul's work in a bigger way, that doesn't necessarily mean changing your environment unless you want to. But if that's you, then we should talk. We should definitely have a conversation. So I'm going to leave a link to the Integrated Potential Experience page that talks about my 16-week program. It's about claiming your gifts and tapping in and integrating your divine potential so that you don't have to burn yourself out. It's about getting to know YOU and living on purpose from your higher values, from what really matters to you. So when you follow that link, and again, I'll leave it in the comments below, you'll see a button at the top of the page that says schedule a discovery call here. So you'll want to click on that if you're ready to unlock deep fulfillment, ease, and visibility that actually feels good and natural for you. Because I'm standing for you to stop this crazy cycle of pushing and motivating to do things that don't feel right to you, that don't feel good. I'm a stand for you following your soul guidance because you deserve to shine and you are here for a powerful spiritual reason, and somebody in your world needs your gifts. So I do want to say thank you. I'm so happy that you are watching this, that this was helpful. I know that it opened up a new possibility for you. You do not have to follow social paradigms that are not meant for you. You do not have to stay stuck. You do not have to burn yourself out. You have other options, thankfully. And if one of those options is to work with me, if you're ready to align with your deeply fulfilling soul values that give you freedom and amazing clarity and empowerment, if you're finally ready to release the need to keep pushing yourself or maybe just ignoring it because you're so burnt out and you don't want to be disappointed, I get that too. Because maybe you don't want to be frustrated again, so you put your dreams and hopes on the back burner. If that's you, we should talk. And if you are ready to leverage your amazing gifts so that you have the visibility, the vitality, and the on-purpose fulfillment that lights you up, that has you springing out of bed in the morning, then we should talk. I want that for you. So schedule a discovery call. Click on the button on the Integrated Potential page on my website. And again, I'll leave that in a moment below. And in that call, that's about a 45-minute call, you'll get clarity about what is getting in your way, what might be slowing you down. Even if you've had that pattern for a while, you'll see it. And I'll also help you see what's really calling you forth. And then we'll see if the integrated potential 16-week experience is a fit for you. And just so you know, I say no sometimes to people, but I won't leave you hanging because sometimes it's just not a fit. And I only want people that are a fit for that program because I want you to get what you're looking for. So if it's not a fit, I'll give you some other alternatives that could be helpful for you. So I want to leave you with a thought that you are here for a powerful reason, and now is the time. The world needs your gifts and your soulful leadership mastery. And I am a stand for you to bring more of your brilliance out into the world in a way that feels really, really good to you. So look in the comments below, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you for joining me. Bye for now.